know, Mr. Bryant, Mr. Hamrock, corporate culture is on you. Corporate priorities are on you. And that's why I want to ask about personal responsibility here. On October 11th, the National Transportation Safety Board, the federal body charged with determining what caused this tragedy, released an interim report on the Merrimack Valley explosions, which clearly identified a series of failures by Columbia Gas. So, Mr. Bryant, you're the president of Columbia Gas. That means the buck stops with you. The NTSB reports reveal unambiguous failures by the company that you run that contributed to this tragedy. I just want to know, do you take personal responsibility for the breakdowns that led to these explosions?
Senator, I take responsibility for the actions in the company, and I'm responsible at this point to make sure that we thoroughly understand what happened and why.
So you take personal responsibility here. Can I ask you the same question, Mr. Hamrock? You're the CEO of NiSource, the company that owns Columbia Gas. The NTSB reports also clearly identify failures by NiSource that contributed to this tragedy. Do you take personal responsibility for this tragedy?
Senator, yes, I take responsibility for the culture as well, as you noted, and safety is our core value. It drives everything we do.
So let me ask you what personal responsibility means to you. Mr. Hamrock, how much were you paid last year?
My compensation is a matter of public record, and it's in the range of $5 million.
$5 million, okay. And Mr. Bryant, how much were you paid last year?
My compensation was approximately $550,000.
Okay, a little over $500,000. Mr. Hamrock, has your pay been reduced as a result of this disaster?
Senator, again, I take full responsibility.
That's a yes or no question. Has your pay been reduced as a result of this disaster?
I fully expect to be held accountable, with compensation being an important part of that, and in fact have recommended to our board that my bonus be withheld.
So your bonus may be withheld in the future. And Mr. Bryant, was your pay reduced as a result of this action?
Senator, a significant portion of my compensation, above $230,000, is incentive compensation. I have suggested to Mr. Hamrock that any payment of any incentive in this year would be inappropriate.
So you're going to reduce, so you will lose your, people died in this explosion, and you're going to lose your incentive bonus this year? Is that right?
Senator, the first conversation I had with Joe Hamrock, and that is the conversation that we had, is that something in the order of $300,000 would be inappropriate.
So you may lose your incentive bonus, or you may not.
I'd like to clarify that. I think I was more specific with Mr. Hamrock. I said that I did not think that it should be paid, and if offered, I would not accept it.
Okay, you hope you will lose your incentive bonus. Is that what you just said?
No, I'm sorry, Senator, I said that. I said that I told Mr. Hamrock that I did not think that the payment of an incentive this year would be appropriate.
Okay, who's going to be responsible for determining whether or not you get your incentive bonus? Is it Mr. Hamrock?
Senator,
I just want to figure out what personal responsibility means to you two.
Personal responsibility goes beyond compensation.
Let's start with compensation. I'm fine with beyond compensation. But I just want to know, you kept your jobs, and you're still getting paid what sounds like a lot of money. And I want to know what personal responsibility means here. Let me ask you another question. You said, Mr. Bryant, right after the explosion, I see no cause to fire anybody with what I know so far. So who exactly at Columbia Gas has been held responsible for the shortcomings that were identified in the NTSB report? Have you fired anyone?
Senator, the review is underway. We will take all appropriate actions based on the final findings, the ultimate understanding of what happened here, personal accountability, including organizational responsibilities, and compensation will all be a part of that. The most important thing is that we get to the core set of facts and understand what happened, who's accountable, make sure we make a consistent
No,
and
I'm
complete
sorry.
set of recommendations.
Let me stop you there. The most important thing is not just that we find out what happens. The most important thing is that we make changes so that it doesn't happen again.
I agree.
And I started my line of questions with how many times you have stood up and said, in effect, publicly, this will not happen again. Yes, there's been an accident, there's been a mistake, but we're going to improve safety and this will not happen again. And we can go through the list a second time or a third time, and that's just right here in Massachusetts. And yet, now that we've had a huge tragedy, now that someone has died, now that people have been injured, now that people have lost their homes, you're saying exactly the same thing you said every time in the past. And you sit here and say, I apologize, and I'm glad to hear that, and I hope that it's sincere. And you say, I take personal responsibility, but I'm just not seeing any impact from that. I'm not seeing a company that takes safety seriously, and I'm not seeing people at the head of the company who take any personal accountability for the kind of tragedy that a culture that is not focused on safety causes to the public. The people in this room have been injured. You have not. You continue to keep your jobs, to collect your big paychecks, and to go on about your business. Personal responsibility means you step up in this, not simply that you back away and say you'll figure out how other people can deal with this problem.